And I got so scared because I didn't want to go to prison. And so I stopped selling LSD. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And there was this pull with the dead. And it was like, but that juxtaposition of federal prison and doing what I know is not morally wrong. Like that dichotomy. And it was fucking with me. And then so
you're not selling people hard that are killing them.
But that's okay. If someone wants to take something, I'm all for the legalization of drugs. Like
100%.
Why would so? And then when they came to my house with the 19 count federal indictment, but they dropped a count before I got there, which the lawyer fucked me over. But I mean, I knew about the law. And then when they had me in the holding cell, they just said, listen, we don't even have to process you. You can just go home. And they're like, you just have to help us get somebody. And I'm like, fuck you. Which is crazy, right?
They always want the guy higher up the food chain.
Yeah, the thing is, I would love to say honor, right? And I did it. And I think if I was facing a firing squad, because the way my dad was with the honor, and I never told in high school, I always held my mud. I never told my brothers and sisters. But like at that time, looking in the mirror, it was like I wasn't wired. We're all dealt an emotional hand, and I wasn't. It wasn't that I was afraid they were going to kill me or whatever. It was like I would have had a life sentence of fucked up shit inside, more than what I had, right?
Yeah, I mean, you signed up for what you did at the end of the day. So
and then and I had this crazy thought, like maybe I'd win the trial. My fucking lawyer, dude, you should have been there. Like it was Gatewood Galbraith. He ran for governor. He's really good friends with Willie Nelson. I mean, you could hear a pin drop.
Sounds like a solid guy.
He did the 2 Red Sense, Joan of Arc for the closing arguments. Marty came in orange hair. He was in the witness protection program. And like every answer that he answered from the prosecutor, he read off a piece of paper, and my lawyer would ask him a question. It was the exact opposite. He'd look at the paper. There'd be 3 answers. The jury was out for 3.5 hours. But at the end of the day, when I got the 151 months, I jumped for joy because I was facing 40 years. But I remember my family and everybody, and rightfully so, they're like, you've got to cooperate. You can't go to jail. And I just felt it was like a rite of passage. I never thought I would end up in Marion, but I had to do that, right? And I thought I would work out. I'm going to get my diet back. Like, it's going to be okay. But
you're trying to make the best of the situation.
I had to. But I remember shaving one day, and I looked myself in the mirror, and I was out on bail. And I'm like, and I knew probably going to lose the trial, and I'm definitely not going to rat. But 2 days before trial, they had this thing in the 80s called Nolo contendere. And the thing is, like, when you got a sheet of LSD, like, say this was a sheet, right?
Okay.
And that's perforated. So what they started to do is to weigh the carrier medium. So they would weigh the paper. So 1 gram of pure LSD looks like a little quartz crystal, and it's 10,000 hits. And so like they would bust someone with 5 sheets and weigh, and it would be like 8 grams. So then the level of the sentencing would be way greater. So it's like if you got pulled over with 50 keys of and they weighed the car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's an insane law.
Right.
Like,
So
that's crazy.
So then what we did is we made the sheets like 1/4 of the size with really thin paper, and they would be just tiny perforations.
Trying to minimize the weight.
Right. So the law, like I had a very good understanding of law, and the people that trained me, they said, if you ever feel like these people would have given me 50 grams at a time, you know, I would get a gram and a half. It would be prepaid. Maybe I make 2-3 grand, and you know, but they would front it, or the people would give me the money. I would go to them and give it to them. But every time they would say, like, if you ever feel heat, if anything ever seems wrong, you can throw that shit away. Don't worry about it. But it's funny that these people, me, Kurt, and Pubba, Scott, I can't remember his last name. We all got the LSD from the same people. We all went to prison. None of us told. It's like they knew how to see in your fucking soul that you weren't going to rat. But so there was this thing called Nolo contendere in the mid-'80s, about the time we started doing that with the sheets. And it's where if you got busted for, you could, it's a fucking master class in law, you could plead Nolo contendere, which meant you're not admitting guilt nor denying. So you could technically still appeal it. And so I kept saying to my lawyer, we paid for the trial too, that if they do Nolo contendere, I would do 3 years, like maybe a week before trial, because I'm like, fuck, I'm facing 40 years. It was 20 counts on the money laundering, 20 counts on the interstate commerce.
Yeah,
the
3
federal
years sounds a whole lot better.
Yeah, the federal guidelines goes up to a level 44. So like Timothy McVeigh, I was a level 40. It's a first time nonviolent offender, no
Wow.
priors.
That sounds
they
high
had no,
up, though.
they
Like,
had no. So they busted him with like 6 sheets. They weighed that, and then he said, "Well, he sold me this many thousands of hits." So it was like 40 grams of LSD, which is 400,000 hits. Like that's where they looked at the chart, and so I'm nervous. I'm tense.
well, I mean, it sounds like to me, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like they didn't have very much good, solid evidence.
No,
against
and that's
you.
how they played it, because everybody would just roll many times. And the thing is, when they had the indictment and they followed me, they wanted to catch me with. And most people, they don't convene a grand jury, but at the time, it was like this. There was maybe 2 or 3 people in each prison at the most that were in there for. So we always had our little clique, you know. But it carried such stiff sentences, and they knew that that's a weapon that they can to get, and then they're seizing everything. And the DEA went so far as they started to bust these growers. They got really wise in 89 and 90, and they would run the grow houses. They would say, okay, we're gonna let you go, and they would just use that to catch the LSD dealers, because these people would have all the. It's funny because the way I met, I'll just say a name, right? Rainbow. When I met Tim and the girl that I did the first hits with, I had that stuff I was telling you about. I don't know if that's on the camera, that my friends were growing with 7%. And that's how I met them, because I brought a pound of that on tour. Now that is I did bring that there, but I brought it there. It wasn't like I was out there, and then Timmy was making the fried dough. He got double life.
Really?
You should have him on
Seriously?
here. Tim Tyler, he'll come on here. Yeah, and he
Double life
and
for that's unbelievable.
And Obama pardoned him, one of the very last before he left office. He had 23 years he served.
You got to connect me with this guy. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
no,
wanna hear
I
about
mean
that
that
too.
story. I wanted to bring him actually, but he was a little afraid. I'm like, Tim, you got to tell your story. He's got a book written, but he didn't publish it yet. So they had that. So they never thought I would go to trial. Why did they get the indictment and not try to arrest me? I don't know. Maybe that's because they couldn't find me. I started to think that too. So 2 days before trial, Gatewood comes to me and he's like, okay, they're going to give you 5. And it's like the highest stakes poker game you could ever have, way beyond any amount of money. I said, okay, 3, 3, 3. No, I didn't ask anything. On their own accord, they called him and said, hey, because it's costly. And I don't know what the win rate is, probably 95 to 98% minimum. Most people plead guilty.
Yeah.
But
you don't want to go up against the feds.
No, and at the end of the day, it was 5 years to plead guilty. But I kept saying Nolo contendere, and my lawyer said, no, it's got to be guilty. And I said, well, what's the difference? No, do you know what the difference is?
With pleading guilty versus nolo contendere?
Yeah.
Well, you plead guilty. I mean, there's no appeal. You can't.
That, and you have to fill this thing out. I never knew this, called a proffer. If you look the word proffer up, it means like disclose. So you fill out a proffer of everybody and every deal you've ever done. Right now, and that's
so you
why
have to snitch.
I never knew when they were teaching me this of why that was so, because there was pleading guilty, but there was a thing they would have called nolo contendere, but they did away with it because then they just, and so I'm like, I can't do that. I'm like, that's ratty. And they're like, well, they're not going to use it against you. They're just going to have it for informational purposes.
Yeah.
It's like, dude,
They'll just
no
use it
way.
against all your friends.
No, right. I'm like, there's no way. And then if you leave something out. So I said, no, just talking with my lawyer. So we went to trial, and fuck, man, that was just unfucking believable. My ex-girlfriend came, but I reconnected with her about 5 years ago. And the thing is, like, she told me finally, they came to her house and her mom had a couple pot plants on the front door in Denver, and they threatened to take everything. But to her credit, because it came out in trial and she actually didn't hurt me.
Really? She held it down.
So, because when they questioned her and she told me this, she was sitting down and she's like, she was so afraid if she told them that,
Mm-hmm.
that she just was, because they had threatened to take the house and everything. She never said anything. She basically just said, we went to a lot of Dead shows, we smoked, and that he would sometimes go to a Western Union, she thinks, and she didn't know what I do for work, but she never said like we went in, we picked the money up, or so it's all like because it's 80, what was it, 92, so it's still the head of the war. So like, oh, he's a deadhead, he smoked. And they did have some phone calls. And in the 80s, the Grateful Dead was one of the highest grossing bands ever. If you look, like 39, 49, 59 million.
They're still selling out shows to this day.
Yeah, and they would play before Europe. They did 9 shows at Madison Square Garden. They sold out in 17 minutes. Stadiums would sell out. So the phone calls, so the tickets were a premium, and I went to 101 shows. We're gonna go around and we're gonna come back. I went to 101 shows, but I always went for the show. I could sell grilled cheese. Like when we got it down to a system where we'd have the grilled cheese pre-made, the show would end, all the people would come out at the encore song from being up front, because like the floor was always festival seating, so you could go anywhere. I'd go way up and back. I'd come out, and it would only be if they were doing like 3 shows in Charlotte. You'd only have to do it for 1 show, but from one like 6-hour vending session, profit, I mean, for maybe a $200-300 investment, at least 800, maybe 1,000, and then that translates, you know. So, tickets were a premium, and I never really paid scalper price. But tickets, you could like, they were maybe $25-30 face value, and you could sell them for like 150. So the phone calls talked about giving 10 tickets to a show, front row seats. Like there was a series of calls, but the thing is, man, the knowledge that I have of the law now, they could never bring the evidence the way they did and not have paperweight they had no sentencing. I mean, so all of that.
Everything seems pretty circumstantial to me.
It's very circumstantial. Lost my train of thought. The debt ticket. So a lot of the recordings were cut off, and I knew what they said. And then there were like a lot of them, they would play the tapes and there would be no, there was stuff, because I would always like, I forget what exactly it would be to help me, but it was good evidence. So that really didn't say anything. And that was only for one order of maybe 1,000 hits, because he never bought more than 1,500 hits. But he would be like 125 a sheet, wire me the money, and I'd send it to him. But they had no other evidence. I forget where I was going with that.
I mean, I think I had mentioned how all their evidence was circumstantial, like very circumstantial.
And then getting the indictment. And then, yeah, I think the CBD.
They were tapping your phone calls too.
No, they were tapping his calls, and he called me. Right. But at that time that he was calling, I think that's when they started to convene the grand jury. But so that was in 91 or late 90, the calls. And so then they arrested me in April 8th, I believe, of 91. And the indictment was from like 12 or 14 months before. No, was it 91 or no, 92 of 92? Because then I had the trial in late 92.
And in 92, they gave you 151 months.
I jumped for joy. We were fighting.
That's insane to hear you be like, that's an exciting sentence to get. That's so long.
We fought it for 5 months. I got found guilty. They wouldn't give me bail. I went to the county jail, and we were fighting the fact of the sentencing, that they didn't actually use that in trial, that they busted Marty with. And when I was in Marion, I jumped for joy, and I found it's called other act evidence. And you have to have a special reason to use that. And during the trial, the judge would scold the prosecutor and say, you can't do that, you haven't, that rule is not allowed. And I would tug on Gatewood's thing. I'm like, dude, you got to object. Like, that means something. Like, and, but anyway, through all the appeals, there was 60 given back and 30. And then when I was in Marion, the judge appointed his friend, the lawyer, to do that appeal. And when I found that, and he ended up getting me out. And when we were going back to court, we were all in the courtroom, and everybody stands up to rise when the judge walks. And conversely, they never say that when they read the verdict.
Yep.
And the judge says hello to everybody, and everybody says he's, Judge Bertelsmann. And then my lawyer, Kurt, man, I can't think of his last name. He died.
R.I.P. the lawyer.
Kurt Elling. He said, "How you doing, Willie?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he was his mentor in college, in law school. But when I found that rule, he said we can appeal that, but they'll probably take it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court won't want to hear it, but it'll go appellate and appellate en banc. And so appellate is when the 3 judges hear it, and then en banc is when they all hear it.